In the deep dive, when we send our kids off to school, we hope they learn something, of course, but these days we also hope they come home safe. As the 7 News I-Team has reported, the nation's public schools expected to spend more than $4 billion on physical security systems this year, everything from metal detectors, surveillance cameras to AI-based security enhancements. And the eye-popping figure is just for technology. It doesn't include the cost of school resource officers. Investigator John Barr has been spearheading our coverage on this topic, and tonight he's here with an interesting discovery in this increasingly high-tech world.
Josh and Michelle, it's an unfortunate reality, but because we now have decades of research about school shootings, we've learned a lot about how to secure school campuses and the tragic consequences when we don't. Researchers in Texas, for example, recently found that for all those billions being spent on advanced security, the most effective deterrent boils down to a low-tech necessity, a securely locked door.
Arlington's Wakefield High School has dozens of doors that open to the outside, but good luck finding one unlocked.
Doors A2 are secure.
One thing that we very much stress just from day one at the start of the school year until the end of it is that the door is going to save your life.
Securing all 42 schools in the district is Steve Proud's job each day.
Doors are a fundamental necessity in making sure that they're secure at all times.
Sounds simple, but new research backs it up. Texas State University recently examined 54 school-based active shooter incidents from 2000 to 2025. In the 29 incidents where a gunman went through a doorway, researchers found 16 of those doors were unlocked. 4 doors were propped open. In 6 cases, the shooter broke in some cases shooting through glass. And in 3 cases, the status of the doors was unknown. This finding underscores a straightforward point, researchers wrote. In most cases where a perpetrator gained access to a space, the door was not secured at the time of the attack.
It should shock everybody, but it doesn't surprise me because we know the 2 things that protect people the most are always access control and communications.
Security consultant Paul Tim has assessed more than 2,000 schools across the U.S. He emphasized the significance of another finding from that Texas State study. In cases where the shooter encountered a secure door, less than 1 in 5 resulted in fatalities. But when the shooter gets through an unsecured door, half the time at least one person is killed.
We want to make sure that classrooms are closed and locked at all times. And when we do that, people who are behind those doors are far better protected and far safer than they would be otherwise.
Following the March 2023 shooting at a Presbyterian elementary school in Nashville, where 6 people were killed, including 3 9-year-old students, Tennessee required public and private schools to keep exterior doors locked and tasked police to make sure they are.
If they find one that's not, they report that. And if you get a couple of reports, you have punitive consequences, meaning you could lose state funding.
We need to do everything that we can do to make sure that we have as many open lines of communication with our public safety partners as we can. And that should involve welcoming them into our schools.
Jason Stoddard runs security for Charles County, Maryland public schools. He worries having law enforcement check and potentially penalize schools for unlocked doors could create more problems than it solves.
The last thing I would want to do is put anything that could cause problems or friction between a school system and their local law enforcement.
Back in Arlington, school officials don't like the sound of that either.
How are you going to enforce that law? And is each county going to, or municipality going to be able to enforce that law?
But as far as the effectiveness of locking doors, well, for those who keep Arlington's school kids safe each day, that's a case that's already closed.
In Tennessee, the year before that Covenant School tragedy, which led to a new state law, Michelle, requiring locked doors, the state fire marshal conducted inspections of all the schools in Tennessee and found that roughly 17%, 172 schools, had at least one unlocked door. So you think about that. That's after Columbine, Sandy Hook, Parkland, Uvalde, all of these tragedies that made national headlines, and yet you still had 17% of schools within the state that had an unsecured door.
Wow. I mean, and that's the easiest thing to do, right?
Right.
Secure a door.